The stars looked different from this far out. Admiral Frank Harris stood alone by the large viewing window on the bridge of the UES Devastator. At 57 years old, with more gray than brown in his hair now, Harris had spent over 30 years in the United Earth Navy. He never thought he would be the one to make first contact with an alien race. "Admiral, we're receiving the signal from the planet's surface," said Lieutenant Olivia Summers. The young communications officer's voice broke the silence on the bridge. Her fingers moved quickly over her screen as she worked to decode the incoming message. Harris nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The image of Ambassador Kelly Morgan appeared. She stood with 4 other humans in front of a group of tall, blue-skinned aliens. The Viridians were elegant creatures with 4 arms and large eyes that seemed to change color with their mood. "Admiral Harris," said Ambassador Morgan, "the initial talks are going well. The Viridian High Council seems genuinely interested in establishing trade relations. They've invited us to their main government building tomorrow." "That's good news, Ambassador," Harris replied. "Keep me updated on any developments. Devastator standing by." The call ended, and Harris turned to his second-in-command. Commander Deborah White had been with him for over 10 years. She knew him better than most. "You don't trust them," she said. It wasn't a question. Harris sighed. "I want to. Humanity needs allies out here, but something feels wrong. The Viridians have been nothing but helpful since we entered their system," White reminded him. "They even shared their star charts with us." "Yes, and doesn't that strike you as strange? An advanced alien civilization just happens to welcome us with open arms, no caution, no lengthy period of observation first." Before White could answer, the ship's alarm began to blare. "Sir!" Lieutenant Summers called out, her voice tight with panic. "I'm picking up weapons fire from the planet's surface. The diplomatic team signals just went dark." Harris rushed to the tactical station where Lieutenant Commander Eric Johnson was already pulling up planetary scans. "What am I looking at, Johnson?" Harris demanded. "Massive energy surge from the Viridian capital city," Johnson replied. "And now, sir, they're powering up planetary defense systems." Chief Engineer Paul Martinez burst onto the bridge, his normally calm face now pale with worry. "Admiral, we've detected a signal broadcasting from the planet. They're transmitting Earth's coordinates to multiple destinations across the galaxy." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. "It was a trap," Commander White said softly. "They wanted to find Earth." Harris's jaw tightened. "How many ships do they have in system?" "Most of their fleet appears to be deployed near their outer planets," Johnson reported. "Probably to avoid alarming us when we arrived. Sensors show they're now moving toward our position. We have maybe 2 hours before they arrive." Science Officer Gregory Peters spoke up from his station. "Admiral, I'm detecting power buildups in installations across the planet's surface. They appear to be charging weapons, and they're aimed at..." "Sir, they're aimed at the coordinates for Earth." Harris felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. 5 human diplomats were already dead. His ship was outnumbered, and now Earth itself was in danger. "Do we have any communication with the planet's surface? Any Viridians we can speak to?" Harris asked, hoping against hope. Lieutenant Summers shook her head. "They've blocked all our communication attempts. Wait, we're receiving a message now." The main screen flickered to life, showing a tall Viridian with deep purple skin. Unlike the others they had met, this one wore ornate armor and had markings etched into the bony ridges of his face. "Humans of Earth vessel," the alien spoke in perfect English. "You have served your purpose. The location of your primitive world is now known to us. Your species will make an excellent addition to our collection." "Collection?" Harris asked. "We came in peace. We offered friendship." The Viridian's eyes shifted to a cold blue color. "Peace is inefficient. Your resources and your genetic material belong to the stronger species. This is the way of the universe." The screen went dark. "Sir," Martinez said urgently, "the planetary installations are nearly charged. Once they fire, that signal will reach Earth in days. They'll have no warning." Harris turned to Dr. Catherine Bell, the ship's chief scientist. The terraforming cannons. Could they disable those installations? Dr. Bell looked shocked. The cannons aren't weapons, Admiral. They're designed to reshape atmospheres, to make hostile planets habitable for humans. Could they be used in reverse? Harris pressed. To make a habitable planet uninhabitable? The bridge crew stared at him. They all knew what he was asking. Dr. Bell swallowed hard. Theoretically, yes. The atmospheric converters could be programmed to create compounds toxic to Viridian biology. But sir, we're talking about affecting an entire planet. Billions of lives. Billions of lives that are preparing to attack Earth, Security Chief Alan Morrison pointed out. Harris walked to the center of the bridge. Martinez, how long would it take to reprogram the terraforming cannons? 20 minutes, maybe 30, the engineer replied. Make it 15, Harris ordered. Johnson, target their military installations first. Let's see if we can take out their weapons without affecting the whole planet. The crew jumped into action, the gravity of the situation, pushing them to work faster than they ever had before. Navigator William Price kept his eyes on the long-range sensors. Sir, the Viridian fleet is changing course. They're accelerating toward us. New estimate for their arrival, 1 hour. Harris nodded grimly. Then we have 1 hour to save Earth. The minutes ticked by as Martinez and his team worked to modify the Devastator's main system. The ship itself seemed to hum with nervous energy. Sir, Tactical Officer Laura Thompson called out. The planetary installations have completed charging. They're preparing to fire. Martinez, Harris demanded. Almost there, Admiral, just a few more minutes. We don't have minutes, Thompson replied. Energy readings are spiking. They're firing now. Harris made the hardest decision of his life. Johnson, target the main installation and fire conventional weapons, full power. The Devastator's laser batteries unleashed a barrage of energy that struck the planetary surface. Explosions bloomed across the night side of the Viridian world. Direct hit, Johnson reported. But it only delayed them. The secondary installations are still charging. Admiral, Martinez called, the terraforming cannons are ready. Harris looked at the image of the beautiful blue-green planet on the main screen, a world that had evolved life, civilization, culture, and treachery. Sir, Commander White said quietly, if we don't act now, Earth won't stand a chance. Harris took a deep breath. Target all military installations. Fire the terraforming cannons. The ship shuddered as the massive cannons released their energy. Unlike conventional weapons, there was no explosion, no immediate destruction. Instead, a pale blue light spread from the impact points, slowly at first, then with increasing speed. It's working, Martinez reported. The atmosphere is changing. Composition. On the screen, they watched as the blue-green planet began to take on a sickly yellow hue. The effect spread like ripples in a pond, eventually covering entire continents. Lieutenant Summers removed her headset with shaking hands. The communications, thousands of distress calls, and now they're going silent. Viridian fleet is still incoming, Price warned. 53 minutes until they're in weapons range. Harris stared at what they had done. The beautiful world was now wrapped in poisonous clouds. The Devastators, sensors showed that the military installations had gone dark, but so had everything else. Get us out of here, Harris ordered quietly. Maximum speed. As the Devastator turned away from the dying world, Harris knew that humanity had just crossed a line. They had saved Earth, but at what cost to their own humanity? The war had just begun, and the Devastator had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of when pushed too far. The UES Devastator moved through space like a silent ghost. It had been 3 days since they escaped the Viridian system. 3 days since they had turned a living world into a poisoned wasteland. The mood on the ship was heavy with the weight of what they had done. Admiral Frank Harris sat alone in his quarters, staring at the report he needed to send to Earth Command. How could he explain what had happened? How could he justify using a terraforming device as a planet-killing weapon? A soft beep came from his door. Enter, Harris said, his voice rough from lack of sleep. Commander Deborah White stepped inside. She looked as tired as Harris felt. "The crew is asking questions, sir," she said. "They want to know what happens next." Harris rubbed his eyes. "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That we're heading to the nearest human outpost to send a secure message to Earth. That we stopped the Viridians from attacking our home." White paused. "But I think they need to hear it from you." Harris nodded slowly. "Call a ship-wide meeting in 1 hour." After White left, Harris forced himself to finish the report. He included everything: the failed diplomatic mission, the Viridians' plan to attack Earth, and his decision to use the terraforming cannons. When he was done, he sent it to his senior officers for review. An hour later, Harris stood before the entire crew in the ship's largest meeting hall. 400 pairs of eyes looked back at him, filled with confusion, fear, and in some cases, anger. "3 days ago," Harris began, "we made a choice that will change the course of human history. We used our technology to destroy an enemy that would have shown us no mercy." He paused, looking at the faces of his crew. "I take full responsibility for that decision." Dr. Catherine Bell stepped forward. The ship's chief scientist had been against using the terraforming cannons as weapons. "With respect, Admiral," she said, her voice carrying through the silent room, "we need to understand exactly what we did to the Viridian planet. The terraforming process was never meant to be used this way." Harris nodded to her. "You're right, Doctor. The crew deserves to know." Dr. Bell turned to face the crew. "The terraforming cannons were designed to make hostile planets habitable for humans. They changed the chemical composition of an atmosphere over time." She pulled up a holographic display showing the blue-green Viridian world. "When we reversed the process, we created an atmosphere filled with compounds that are toxic to Viridian biology. The hologram showed the planet's surface turning yellow-brown, clouds of poisonous gas spreading across the continents. The process doesn't destroy buildings or infrastructure," Dr. Bell continued. "It simply makes the air impossible to breathe for Viridians. Those who couldn't find shelter or breathing equipment would have died within hours." A young crew member raised her hand. "How many died?" Dr. Bell looked down. "Based on our scans of the planet's population, we estimate 3 billion. A shocked murmur ran through the crowd. Lieutenant Eric Johnson, the weapons specialist, stood up. "Those 3 billion were preparing to attack Earth. They killed our diplomats. They would have killed all of us. That doesn't make it right," Dr. Bell responded. "No," Harris agreed. "It doesn't make it right, but it may have been necessary." Chief Engineer Paul Martinez joined the conversation. "Admiral, there's something else the crew should know. The GI. Modifications we made to the terraforming cannons are now permanent. We can't reverse the process on the Viridian world." This news hit Harris hard. He had hoped they might someday find a way to undo what they had done. "The bigger problem," Martinez continued, "is that now we know these cannons can be used this way. This weapon exists now, and we can't uninvent it." The meeting continued for another hour. Some crew members defended their actions, others questioned them. Harris listened to all of them, knowing that each person on his ship would have to find their own way to live with what they had done. When the meeting ended, Harris returned to the bridge with Commander White and his senior officers. "Message from Earth Command," Lieutenant Olivia Summers announced as they entered. "They've received our report and are sending new orders." Harris took a deep breath. "Put it on screen." The face of Admiral Jason Wright, head of Earth Command, appeared. He looked grim. "Harris, we've reviewed your report. The situation is worse than we thought. The Viridians sent their message to at least 2 other alien species before you. Neutralized their planet. We've identified them as the Kral Dominion and the Tezoth hierarchy." "Have they made any moves against Earth?" Harris asked. "Not yet, but our long-range patrols have detected increased activity near our outer colonies. It's only a matter of time." Wright's face hardened. "The Security Council has made a decision. The UES Devastator is to proceed to the Arcturus shipyards immediately." "Arcturus?" Harris frowned. That's in the opposite direction from Earth. Yes. You're not coming home yet, Harris. At Arcturus, your ship will be refitted with improved terraforming cannons. The technology is being classified as a planetary defense system. You'll be joined by 2 new ships of the same class. Harris felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Sir, are you saying we're going to build more of these weapons? We're at war, Harris, a war we didn't start, but one we need to win. The Viridians forced our hand. Now we need to show the Kraul and the Tezoth that Earth is not to be threatened. After the call ended, the bridge was silent. Harris looked at his officers, seeing his own doubts reflected in their faces. So that's it? Dr. Bell asked quietly. We're going to build a fleet of planet killers? Security Chief Alan Morrison shook his hands. We didn't ask for this. The Viridians did this when they threatened Earth. And what happens when we use these weapons against the Kraul or the Tezoth? Dr. Bell argued. How many more billions will die? Will that make us any better than the Viridians? Harris had no answer for her. 3 weeks later, the UES Devastator arrived at the Arcturus shipyards. Hidden inside a dense asteroid belt, the shipyards were buzzing with activity. 2 massive ships were under construction, identical to the Devastator in design. The UES Reckoning and the UES Judgment, said the shipyard commander as he gave Harris a tour. They'll be ready within the month. Harris looked at the new ships, feeling no pride at the sight. That fast? Earth Command has made this the top priority. All other projects are on hold. Later, as they walked through the areas where the Devastator would be upgraded, the commander showed Harris the new terraforming cannons. Twice the power, half the energy requirements, he explained. And we've added a targeting system that can focus the effect on specific areas of a planet. So we could hit military targets without affecting civilian areas? Harris asked, feeling a small spark of hope. The commander nodded. In theory. But Earth Command wants the option for full planetary coverage as well. That night, Harris couldn't sleep. He stood at the viewing port in his temporary quarters, watching workers swarm over his ship like ants. Commander White found him there, still staring into space as the station's artificial dawn began to brighten. Orders came in, she said. The Kraul have attacked one of our outer colonies. 30,000 dead. Harris closed his eyes. And so it begins. The crew is ready, White told him. Whatever you decide, they'll follow you. Harris turned to face her. We didn't ask for this war. But now that we're in it, we need to find a way to end it quickly with as little bloodshed as possible. Is that even possible with the weapons we have? Harris didn't know. But as the Devastator prepared for its new mission, he promised himself that he would try to find a better way than simply turning more planets into wastelands. The question was whether the rest of humanity, or their enemies, would give him that chance. 2 months had passed since the first attack. The war had spread across 3 star systems. The UES Devastator, along with its sister ships the UES Reckoning and the UES Judgment, had become the most feared vessels in known space. Admiral Frank Harris stood on the bridge of the Devastator, looking at the tactical display. The holographic map showed the positions of the human fleet facing off against the combined forces of the Kraul Dominion. The Kraul fleet is holding position near their homeworld, reported Lieutenant Commander Eric Johnson. They've gathered over 200 ships. Commander Deborah White studied the display with a frown. They're protecting their planet. They know what we can do now. Harris nodded grimly. Just last week, they had used the terraforming cannons on a major Kraul military base located on a moon in the Sirius system. The moon's atmosphere had been converted in minutes, killing everyone on the surface. The Kraul had responded by attacking. 2 more human colonies. Any word from the diplomatic team? Harris asked. Lieutenant Olivia Summers shook her head. Nothing yet, sir. The Kraul haven't responded to our request for talks. Harris wasn't surprised. After what happened to the Viridian planet, why would any alien species trust humans enough to negotiate? Admiral, Chief Engineer Paul Martinez called from his station. I've completed the analysis of the new targeting system. We can now focus the terraforming effect on areas as small as 50 square miles. That's progress, Harris said. It means we can hit military targets without affecting civilian populations. Dr. Catherine Bell didn't look convinced. Atmospheric changes don't respect boundaries, Admiral. The effect will still spread beyond the target zone, just more slowly. Before Harris could respond, an alarm sounded. "Sir, we're receiving an emergency transmission from Earth Command," Lieutenant Summers announced. "Priority 1. "Put it through," Harris ordered. The face of Admiral Jason Wright appeared on the main screen. He looked haggard with dark circles under his eyes. "Harris, the situation has escalated. The Tezoth hierarchy has joined forces with the Crawl. They've launched a major offensive against our core systems. Mars colony is under attack, and we've lost contact with the Jupiter stations." Harris felt his blood run cold. The war was reaching Earth's doorstep. "Our defensive fleet is engaged, but they're outnumbered," Wright continued. "We need you to hit the Crawl homeworld now. Use the planet killer. Make them pull back their forces to defend their home." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what Wright was asking. "Sir," Harris said carefully, "the Crawl homeworld has a population of over 5 billion, most of them civilians." "I know what I'm asking, Harris," Wright replied, his voice hard. "But we're running out of options. The combined Crawl and Tezoth fleets will reach Earth in 2 weeks if we don't stop them now." After the transmission ended, Harris ordered his senior officers to the conference room. "We can't do this," Dr. Bell said immediately. 5 billion people. It would be genocide." Security Chief Alan Morrison leaned forward. "And what about the billions of humans who will die if the alien fleets reach Earth? We have a duty to protect our own people." "There has to be another way," Martinez insisted. "What if we demonstrate the weapon on an uninhabited planet in their system? Show them what we could do without actually doing it." "They already know what we can do," Commander White pointed out. "The Viridian planet, the Crawl, Moonbase. They know, and they're still coming." Harris listened to the debate, the weight of the decision heavy on his shoulders. Finally, he held up his hand for silence. "I won't order the destruction of an entire civilian population," he said firmly. "But we need to stop that fleet." He turned to Martinez. "You said we can target areas as small as 50 square miles now?" The engineer nodded. "Then we target their military command centers, their shipyards, their weapons factories. We hit them hard enough to show we're serious, but we spare their cities. It's still an attack on their homeworld," Dr. Bell warned. "They'll see it as an act of war." "We're already at war," Harris replied. "But this way, we leave the door open for peace." The plan was set in motion. The 3 human warships would approach the Crawl homeworld from different vectors, making it harder for the defensive fleet to intercept them all. The Devastator would target the main military command center. The Reckoning would hit the orbital shipyards, and the Judgment would strike the largest weapons manufacturing complex. As they prepared to jump to the Crawl system, Lieutenant Summers received an unexpected message. "Sir, we're being hailed by a Crawl vessel. It's small, possibly a diplomatic ship." "Put it through," Harris ordered, surprised. The screen showed a Crawl officer. The aliens were reptilian in appearance, with scaled skin and elongated skulls. This one wore the insignia of a high-ranking commander. "I am General Vex of the Crawl Dominion," the alien said in a translator-assisted voice. "I wish to speak with the one who commands the planet killers." "This is Admiral Frank Harris of the United Earth Navy. I'm listening." The Crawl general's yellow eyes narrowed. "Our intelligence tells us you are coming to attack our homeworld. Is this true?" Harris saw no point in lying. "We're prepared to use our weapons against your military installations if you don't call off your attack on our colonies." "You humans created a terrible weapon," General Vex said. "When you destroyed the Viridian world, you changed the rules of warfare. Now all species must adapt or die." "We didn't want this war," Harris insisted. "The Viridians threatened Earth first, and now we threaten you, so you will destroy us too?" The general made a gesture that might have been the Crawl equivalent of a sad smile. "Perhaps we are not so different." Harris leaned forward. "It doesn't have to be this way. Call back your fleet. Let's find a way to end this without more bloodshed." General Vex was silent for a moment. "There are those among my people who would agree with you, but they are not the ones in power." "Then help us change that," Harris urged. "We don't want to destroy your world." It may already be too late, the general replied. The Tezoth have promised us new technology if we help them defeat humanity. Our leaders have committed to this path. At the cost of your homeworld? Our leaders believe you are bluffing, that even humans would not destroy another world after seeing the results of your attack on the Viridians. Harris felt a glimmer of hope. What if we could prove we're serious without killing billions? Would that convince your leaders to negotiate? The general considered this. Perhaps. What do you propose? 3 days later, the UES Devastator entered the crawl system alone. As expected, the defensive fleet moved to intercept. They're hailing us, reported Lieutenant Summers. On screen, Harris ordered. A different crawl appeared, this one wearing the elaborate headgear of their ruling council. Human vessel, you have entered crawl space. Leave immediately or be destroyed. Harris stood tall. I am Admiral Frank Harris. I've come to demonstrate what will happen if you continue your attack on Earth. Without waiting for a response, he gave the order. Target the coordinates General Vex provided. Fire terraforming cannons. The Devastator shuddered as the weapon discharged. On the main view screen, they watched as the beam struck an uninhabited moon orbiting the crawl homeworld. The effect was immediate and visible even from space. The rocky surface began to change color as the atmosphere transformed. Message sent, Harris said quietly. For tense minutes, there was no response from the crawl. Then Lieutenant Summers straightened at her station. Sir, the crawl fleet is changing formation. They're pulling back from attack positions. A new transmission came through. It was General Vex. Admiral Harris, the Council has agreed to talks. A ceasefire will begin immediately. After the transmission ended, the bridge crew let out a collective breath. They had averted disaster, at least for now. Commander White moved to stand beside Harris. Do you think it will last? Harris watched as the crawl ships moved away from the Devastator. I don't know, but for the first time since this war began, we have a chance for peace. He turned to his crew, seeing hope in their eyes for the first time in months. Send word to Earth Command. Tell them the Devastator has completed its mission without turning another world into a wasteland. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was a step away from the path of destruction they had been following, and for now that was enough. 6 months had passed since the ceasefire with the crawl. Admiral Frank Harris sat in a large meeting room on a space station that orbited Earth's moon. Around the table sat representatives from 4 different species: humans, crawl, Tezoth, and even a few surviving Viridians who had been off-world when their planet was destroyed. Harris had aged years in these few months. His hair had gone completely gray and deep lines marked his face. The burden of his decisions weighed on him every day. The treaty is almost complete, said Ambassador Lily Reed, Earth's chief negotiator. But there are still concerns about the terraforming technology. General Vex of the Crawl nodded his scaled head. My government demands that all planet-altering weapons be destroyed as part of this agreement. As do we, said the Tezoth representative, a tall being with 6 eyes and silvery skin. Such weapons upset the balance of power in our region of space. The Viridian representative, a female named Ziri, spoke quietly. My people have paid the highest price in this conflict. Billions dead, our homeworld uninhabitable. We insist that those responsible be held accountable. All eyes turned to Harris. Everyone knew he had given the order to use the terraforming cannons on the Viridian planet. Harris met their gazes steadily. I take full responsibility for my actions, but we must also acknowledge that the Viridian leadership attacked our diplomats and were preparing to assault Earth. Ziri's eyes flashed with anger. The actions of a few do not justify the deaths of billions. No, Harris agreed quietly. They don't. Nothing can justify that level of destruction. That's why I'm here today, to make sure it never happens again. Ambassador. Reed stepped in smoothly. Admiral Harris has been instrumental in bringing all sides to these peace talks. His actions over the past 6 months have prevented further loss of life. The ambassador was referring to Harris's decision to disobey direct orders. When Earth Command had demanded that he use the terraforming weapons against the Tezoth homeworld after a series of battles, Harris had refused. Instead, he had reached out to moderate leaders among the Krawl and Tezoth, seeking a diplomatic solution. For a while, Earth had branded him a traitor, but as the fighting died down and the ceasefire held, public opinion had shifted. Now many saw him as a peacemaker rather than a war criminal. The meeting continued for hours as they worked through the final details of the treaty. By the end, all parties had agreed to 3 key points. All terraforming weapons would be dismantled, a mixed species council would be formed to govern relations between the 4 civilizations, and resources would be shared to help refugees and rebuild damaged colonies. As the meeting broke up, General Vex approached Harris. "You surprised me, Admiral," the Krawl said. "When we first met, I thought you were like other humans, quick to destroy what you don't understand." Harris shook his head. "Too many have died already, General. Someone had to take the first step toward peace." "What will you do now?" Vex asked. "Your government has relieved you of command, yes?" "Yes," Harris confirmed. "The UES Devastator has a new captain now. As for me, I've been assigned to a new project." Later that day, Harris returned to the UES Devastator for the last time. The ship had been his home for years, but now he was just a visitor. Commander Deborah White, recently promoted to captain, met him in the shuttle bay. "It feels strange to see you without your admiral's insignia," she said as they walked through the corridors. Harris smiled slightly. "It feels strange not to wear it, but I'm not sorry to give up the responsibility." "The crew misses you," White told him. "Many of them wanted to join your new project, but Fleet Command is keeping the ship's complement intact for now." They reached the bridge, where several of Harris's former officers waited to greet him. Chief Engineer Paul Martinez, Lieutenant Olivia Summers, Dr. Catherine Bell, faces that had been with him through the darkest days of the war. "I heard about your new assignment," Martinez said. "The Restoration Project. Ambitious." Harris nodded. "It's the least we can do. We turned the Viridian planet into a wasteland. Now we're going to try to make it habitable again." Dr. Bell's eyes widened in surprise. "Is that even possible? The atmospheric changes were designed to be permanent." "That's why I need the best scientists in Earth space," Harris replied. "Including you, if you're willing." Bell looked thoughtful. "Reverse engineering, the terraforming process. It would take years, maybe decades." "I know," Harris said, "but we owe it to the Viridians to try." After saying goodbye to his old crew, Harris made one last stop before leaving the Devastator. He visited the observation deck where he had spent so many hours during the war, looking out at the stars and wondering if he was making the right decisions. The door opened and he was surprised to find Ziri, the Viridian representative, already there. "Admiral Harris," she said, turning from the viewport. "I was told I might find you here." Harris walked over to stand beside her. "I'm not an admiral anymore. Just Mr. Harris now." Ziri studied him carefully. "You know, on my world there was a concept called Kirasha, the idea that one who causes harm must work to heal what they have broken. That's what the Restoration Project is about," Harris said. "Trying to heal what we broke." "Yes," Ziri agreed. "But the Viridian survivors are divided on this issue. Some see it as a genuine attempt to make amends. Others view it as humans trying to ease their guilt." Harris looked out at the stars. "Maybe it's both. Does that matter if the result is the same?" "Perhaps not," Ziri admitted. "But I wonder if you understand how long this journey will be. The damage done in a day may take generations to repair, if it can be repaired at all." "I understand," Harris said quietly. "That's why I've committed the rest of my life to this project. It won't bring back those who died, but it might give their descendants a home again someday." Ziri was silent for a moment. Then she said, "There is a small group of Viridian scientists who have been studying ways to adapt to toxic environments. They might be willing to join your project." Hope flickered in Harris's eyes. "That would be more than I could have asked for." "Do not mistake," This for forgiveness, Harris, Ziri warned. What you did can never be forgiven. I know, Harris replied. I don't seek forgiveness. Only the chance to build something from the ruins. 1 month later, Harris stood on the bridge of a different ship, the UES Restoration, a science vessel, equipped with the most advanced research facilities Earth could provide. Around him worked a mixed crew of humans, Kral, Tezoth, and a small group of Viridian scientists. On the main screen was an image of the Viridian homeworld, still wrapped in poisonous yellow clouds. Preliminary scans show that some microorganisms have already begun to adapt to the new atmosphere, reported Dr. Bell. Life finds a way even in the most hostile environments. Can we use that? Harris asked. Help that process along? Possibly, said Lorix, one of the Viridian scientists. We might be able to engineer species that can gradually transform the toxic elements back into breathable air. How long would it take? Asked Martinez, who had eventually joined the project as chief engineer. With current technology? Perhaps a century, Lorix answered. But science advances. What seems impossible today may be routine tomorrow. Harris looked at the planet on the screen. Once a vibrant world of blue oceans and green land masses, now a dead ball of poison. A world that he had helped destroy in minutes that might take generations to save. Then we'd better get started, he said. As the Restoration moved into orbit around the Viridian planet, Harris knew that this new mission would not erase the past. The war had changed everything, changed him. Humanity had revealed its capacity for both tremendous destruction and dedicated healing. The human warship that had turned planets into wastelands would be remembered in history. But so too would the human effort to restore what was lost, to find a path forward from the ashes of war. It wasn't redemption, but it was perhaps the beginning of wisdom.